When I came back to life, I had two things to do. First, on the marriage license, I'd write down the name of my fiancée Olivia's true love, James, and let those two scumbags have each other. Second, I'd take all my savings and go south to start a business. In my last life, Olivia felt sorry for her childhood sweetheart, James. Behind my back, she took the money I had painstakingly saved for 5 years, money for our wedding, and gave it to him to buy a house. 20+ years later, James became a multimillionaire thanks to a property buyout for that same house. Meanwhile, I was living in a dilapidated, drafty shack in the countryside, unkempt and worn out, taking care of Olivia's paralyzed father and raising 2 kids. The day I died from exhaustion, Olivia was in the big city, dressed in a chic pantsuit, holding a bouquet of flowers to celebrate James's 50th birthday. Then I opened my eyes, and I was reborn. The employee dorms were bustling with people. As I hurried inside, people who knew me started calling out, "Brandon, I saw Olivia downtown today. She was at the jewelry store buying a ring. Must be for the wedding, right? Olivia's so smart and beautiful, and she's got real class. You marrying her is the dream, man. No kidding. You don't find a loyal, devoted woman like her anymore." Loyal and devoted? All of Olivia's loyalty and devotion were for James. As for me, I was just her personal doormat, someone she could summon and dismiss at will, who'd do anything for her without complaint. After all, her old doormat loved her so much, thought of nothing but her, and treated her every word like gospel. With me around, she never had to worry about a thing. I didn't answer anyone, just pushed through the crowd and went back to my place. I shut the door and went straight to my room, opening the trunk by my bed. Inside was a familiar tin box. I reached out and opened it. The neatly stacked bills inside came into view, and I let out a breath. Thank God. It's not too late. I took the money out and counted it carefully. Not a dollar more, not a dollar less. Exactly 5,000. This was my salary, saved over 5 years of hard work and penny pinching. In my past life, I deprived myself of everything, tightening my belt to save this money, fantasizing about marrying Olivia, having kids, and living a happy life. But what did Olivia do to me? She secretly gave this money to her childhood sweetheart, James, to buy a house. Afraid I'd find out and cause a scene, she lied and told me the money had been stolen on her way to buy things for the wedding. I didn't doubt her for a second. I even comforted her, saying we could always earn more money. Later, Olivia's father fell down the stairs and broke his leg. She said he was sick and needed someone to take care of him. I felt her anxiety and immediately offered to quit my job and go home to look after him. The moment I left for the countryside to take care of her father, my job was given to James. While I was in the country changing bedpans for Olivia's father, she and James were in the city, billing and cooing like a pair of lovebirds. Later, when Olivia got a promotion and transferred to a bigger city, she took James with her to enjoy the good life. She never gave a single thought to me, her husband. I spent half my life serving my father-in-law and raising 2 children. Nearing 50, I thought I could finally relax, only to discover that Olivia had been cheating on me with James the whole time, building a second family with him. If James hadn't come back to sell the house and gloatingly told me the truth, I would have died without ever knowing Olivia's true colors. Knowing the truth, I'm not marrying Olivia in this life. I'm taking my money and getting out of here. I took the money from the tin box, stuffed it in my pockets, and headed out. If I was going to start a business down south, I needed to check on train tickets first. I headed straight for the train station, but on the way, I saw Olivia and James walking side by side, their arms full of shopping bags as they came out of a store. Seeing them, I ducked into a nearby shop to avoid them, but to my surprise, they followed me right in. Olivia was helping James shop. Her eyes were completely fixed on him, so she didn't see me at all. They were browsing at a counter some distance away. As they looked, they talked. James put on a pitiful act. "Olivia, if you give me Brandon's job, will he be okay with it?" "My job? Didn't I quit so James could have it after Olivia's dad broke his leg? Could it be that in my past life, Olivia had planned all along for me to quit so James could take my place?" My heart pounded with shock. I stared at Olivia. Her usual frosty expression melted into a gentle smile, and her voice was incredibly soft. He'll have to be. Don't worry, I've already figured out a plan. In my past life, Olivia always spoke to me in a cold, business-like tone. I just assumed that was her personality. I never imagined she could be so gentle. It just wasn't for me. Hearing her words, James's face lit up. Thank you, Olivia. You're too good to me. It's the least I can do. At that, James's eyes darted around, and he adopted a helpless look. Olivia, I'm new here, and I can't keep imposing on you if only we had a place of our own. The way James bit his lip, looking so pitiful and lost, never mind Olivia, who adored him. Any woman would have a hard time saying no. She comforted him softly. Don't rush. I'll figure something out about a house. How? You're living in the dorms yourself. Seeing his heart-wrenching expression, Olivia thought for a moment and finally said, I've already made plans for the house. Brandon's mother was a veteran employee at the factory. She died on the job, so the management decided to offer Brandon a 3-bedroom apartment at a heavily discounted price. He gets first dibs. I've decided you should be the one to apply for it. James couldn't hide the surprise in his eyes. Really? But Brandon probably won't agree, will he? He doesn't have to know, Olivia replied nonchalantly. But isn't that wrong? James said, though his tone quickly shifted. It's just, Olivia, I'm new here and broke. Even if you give me the chance to apply, I can't afford it. Olivia completely fell for James's act. Don't worry, I'll figure out the money. Just wait, it'll all be taken care of. James's face immediately brightened. Thank you, Olivia. You're the best. I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. There's no need for that between us. They picked out some daily necessities and left together, never once noticing me standing not far away. I couldn't believe Olivia would go to such lengths for James. So, the low-cost house James bought in my last life was actually the company's compensation for my mom's death on the job. It was supposed to be mine. And Olivia, without telling me, had hijacked it for James, and even used the money I'd saved for our wedding to pay for it. He used my money to buy my subsidized house. James got it all without spending a dime. How deeply in love with him was she? If they hadn't used me, I might have applauded their grand romance. But right now, only one word came to mind. Scumbags. I had been planning to go to the train station to buy a ticket, but after hearing Olivia, I immediately changed my mind and headed straight for the factory to find my boss. When I explained why I was there, my boss was surprised. You and Olivia are getting married soon, so we didn't bother you. We told her directly. She said she'd get the papers ready for you to sign and submit. We've already reminded her a few times, but she hasn't gotten them ready yet. His words reminded me of something from my past life. Around this same time, Olivia had come home with a document for me to sign. Was that the paperwork for the housing compensation? In my last life, I trusted Olivia completely and signed it without even reading the contents. That's how she took advantage of me. This time, I was going to strike first. I told my boss, she's her, and I'm me. This is the company's compensation for my mother. Can only go to me, her only son. Olivia and I aren't married, she's an outsider. She has no right to make decisions for me. I'll handle the housing matter myself. My boss thought that made sense. He gave me a new set of application forms to fill out. Without hesitation, I filled them out, paid the $2,000 deposit on the spot, and got the keys to my apartment. This time, if James and Olivia think they can scheme their way into my apartment, they can dream on. I tucked the keys to my new place in my pocket, ate a big, steaming bowl of wonton soup at a roadside stall, and then headed back to the dorm. Olivia was already back, sitting in the living room with a grim look on her face. Ever since we set a wedding date, I had given her a key to my dorm, and she had given me one to hers. Before, we'd kept to ourselves. Now that James was here, Olivia, worried he had nowhere to stay, gave him her dorm room. She had moved into the spare room in my dorm. Seeing me come back so late, Olivia was clearly unhappy. Brandon, where have you been? Why are you just getting back? She demanded. Normally, a single frown from her would have sent me scurrying over like a puppy. Today, I just answered coldly, I was out taking care of some things. Olivia scoffed. What could you possibly have to take care of? I ignored her and went into my room. Olivia was tall, beautiful, and educated, an engineer at the factory. I was head over heels in love with her, always fawning over her and doing everything I could to please her. She had never been brushed off by me like this. My attitude left her speechless. Seeing me go into my room without another word, she was predictably furious and followed me in. Brandon, what's gotten into you today? And by the way, where's all that money you saved? It's gone. So she'd already gone through my money box while I was out. I looked at her with a cold smile. You went through my trunk? Olivia, what do you think you're doing, going through my things without permission? I had loved Olivia, blindly dedicating everything I had to her. She had long since started treating my money and my possessions as her own. She never dreamed I would confront her like this. Olivia's face flushed red. It's not, I just thought, since we're getting married soon, we need to buy things and you saved up a lot, right? I was just going to borrow it for a bit. Ha! Last time, she used the same excuse to take my money for James. She was trying the same trick again. The nerve. I said coldly, if you need to buy wedding things, use your own money. Why are you going through my trunk? Are you planning on not spending a dime on your own wedding? You want the man to pay for everything? Aren't you afraid of becoming a laughingstock? My tone and attitude enraged Olivia. Having never been spoken to like this, she yelled, Brandon, what is this attitude? I stared at her, red-faced and furious. What? Am I wrong? Who else at this factory gets married with the woman not contributing? Why is it that with us it has to be my money? What kind of woman are you? Humiliated, Olivia stormed out and slammed the door. I shut the door and checked my room. It had been turned upside down. Olivia must have been tearing it apart looking for the money. Thank God I was reborn and got to it first. Otherwise, I would have fallen for her trap again. Olivia didn't come back that night and I didn't care. I knew she was waiting for me to come find her, to beg her to come back. After all, in my past life, I'd never even said a harsh word to her, let alone confronted her like this. Being challenged so suddenly was a blow to her pride. Storming out was her way of making a statement. Olivia was probably waiting for me to come crawling back, groveling like I always did. But this time she was dreaming. I didn't care where Olivia spent the night. She was probably with James anyway. Olivia adored James, willing to walk through fire for him. Now that I was stepping aside to let them be together, she should be thrilled. She would surely jump at the chance to be with him. But I was wrong. The next morning, Olivia came back on her own. She brought breakfast, buns, fried dough sticks, and soy milk. She set it all, still steaming, on the table. When I came out after washing up, she actually greeted me with a smile. Brandon, time for breakfast. Might as well eat it. I sat down at the table and started on a bun. Olivia kept studying me. I had no interest in talking to her, so I just ate in silence. Seeing this, Olivia had to speak first. Brandon, I was out of line yesterday. I apologize. Had the sun risen in the west? I looked up at her, a cynical expression on my face. A flash of embarrassment crossed hers, but she continued. A colleague of mine had a family emergency and needed money, so I lent him everything I had set aside for the wedding. That's why we have to use your money now. Heck, if I were the same old Brandon from my past life, obsessed with Olivia, I would have swallowed her ridiculous lie without question. But I was a new man. I laughed inwardly, knowing she was lying. Her goal was to trick me out of my money to buy a house for her beloved James. But Olivia wasn't the only one who could lie. So could I? I swallowed a bite of the bun, took a big gulp of soy milk, and put on a pained expression. I was in a bad mood yesterday, but there was a reason. My money got stolen when I was out shopping, so I was just... What? Olivia shot up from her chair. The excuse I used was the same one she'd used on me in our last life. Back then, I chose to believe her. But this time, Olivia was staring at me with suspicion. She didn't believe me, but she had no reason to doubt me. I had always been completely obedient to her, treating her like a goddess. Olivia couldn't believe I would lie to her. Without my money, she couldn't buy a house for James. Back then, a month's salary was just over $100. $2,000 was no small sum, and she couldn't borrow that much on short notice. Furious, Olivia stormed out and slammed the door again. I paid no mind to her helpless rage. After finishing breakfast, I went to the factory. Since I planned to leave and start a business down south, I obviously didn't need this job anymore. But I wasn't about to let those two scumbags, Olivia and James, get it. I decided to sell my position and make some money. The factory was doing well, and plenty of people were eager to pay for a job. When word got out that I was giving up my position, several interested people came to ask about the price. I wasn't asking for much and quickly reached an agreement with one person. He wanted the job for his wife but didn't have the cash on hand. He needed to go home, talk it over with her, and borrow some money. We set a time to meet, and I went back to my dorm in a great mood. I had just sat down and taken a sip of water when James showed up. He came over deliberately to provoke me, sauntering up with a smug look on his face. "Brandon, my man, Olivia spent the whole day with me yesterday helping me buy things. I didn't have any money, so she used her salary. She even said that since I'm new here and broke, she'll give me half her pay from now on." James had said the same things to me in our last life. I had trembled with rage, called him shameless, and fought with Olivia. In the end, I got nothing and only made Olivia despise me more. This time, James tried the same routine, but I had no reaction. My eyes fell on James's clothes. The brand new outfit looked familiar. Weren't those the clothes I bought for my wedding? When did James take my clothes? Seeing that I was ignoring his provocations and just staring at his clothes, James's expression grew even more smug. Olivia knew I didn't bring many clothes, so she felt bad and gave me your new suit. Don't be upset. I looked at James coldly. It's fine. I bought those clothes with my money. Olivia gave them to you without my permission. Taking without asking is stealing. I'll get the money from her myself. James scoffed. Yeah, right. You think you have the guts to ask Olivia for money? A guy like you is lucky to be marrying her in the first place. Believe it or not, I can make her break up with you right now. She listens to you that much? Who do you think you are? I shot back with a cold laugh. My question left James speechless, and he grew flustered. You don't know who I am to her? If my parents hadn't forced me to get a girlfriend back then, I would have been with Olivia. You wouldn't have even had a chance. Is that so? So after your girlfriend dumped you, you came running back to Olivia, hoping to rekindle an old flame? With no one else around, James wasn't afraid to admit it. That's right. It's exactly what you think. I couldn't help but laugh at his shameless face. You two scumbags really are something, aren't you? You want Olivia? You can have her. Now get out. Get the hell away from me. You make me sick. James never expected me to change so completely. Failing to get the reaction he wanted, he glared at me, his eyes burning with fury. You just wait. I'm waiting. You got dumped, so you came crawling back to Olivia, treating her like your personal ATM, right? You want her money, my job, and my house. If Olivia had nothing, would you still be putting on this pathetic act? Let me tell you, whatever you want to do has nothing to do with me. Take Olivia. I don't want her, but my job, my money, and my house will never be stepping stones for you two scumbags. I had hit a nerve. James's eyes were practically shooting fire. Having failed to get a rise out of me, he prepared to leave. But just as he turned, he saw someone walking into the courtyard and immediately changed his tune. The hatred and resentment on his face vanished, and his eyes instantly reddened. He covered his face and began to sob. Brandon, you've got it all wrong. Olivia and I are just like siblings. We're not what you think. He started putting on a victim act. I didn't even have to look to know that Olivia was back. Sure enough, Olivia appeared at the doorway. Seeing James like this, her heart went out to him. Without asking a single question, she spun on me and roared, Brandon, what did you do now? Brandon said, I'm only after your money. He won't give me the job or the house, and he's spreading rumors about us. James spilled the beans, telling Olivia everything I had been thinking. Hearing James mention the job and the house, Olivia's expression turned ugly. She had never intended to reveal her dark intentions to me. Now that her scheme was laid bare, she was utterly humiliated. Shame turned to rage, and she shrieked at me, "Brandon, you've gone too far. Apologize to James." I already knew Olivia was cruel and heartless. I knew she had been using me all along. Even so, seeing her blindly defend James without a second thought still made my eyes burn. A lifetime of love, a lifetime of devotion, a lifetime of wasted years, all for a woman like this. It wasn't worth it. My voice choked with sorrow for my past self's ignorant pity. Seeing my eyes redden, Olivia was taken aback. She awkwardly motioned for James to leave. After James left, she closed the door and sat down across from me. "Brandon, let's talk." I wiped the moisture from my eyes and stared at her coldly. For once, Olivia took the initiative to explain. "Brandon, there's nothing going on between James and me. We're just friends. I just feel sorry for him. You know how pitiful his situation is. His girlfriend left him, and he has to raise a child on his own. I just want to help him." If I hadn't lived through my last life, I would have believed her explanation. But her words were useless now. I just continued to stare at her in silence. Olivia had never seen me like this. She hesitated for a moment, then reached for my hand. "Brandon, I didn't mean to hide the housing situation from you. James has nowhere to live, and it doesn't look good for him to keep staying in my dorm. So I thought I'd get him a place to live first. That way you wouldn't be mad at me about him anymore." She made it sound so noble. But why the hell should I give up my house for James? I asked her word by word. "I'm not related to James in any way. Why should I give him my house?" Olivia was stumped. Took her a moment to reply. "James and I grew up together. His parents were very kind to me, so I have to repay him. If you want to repay him, do it yourself. Why drag me into it? If I remember correctly, you've already given him a lot of money, right? And you promised to give him half your salary. Isn't that enough to repay your debt? It's not as simple as paying back money. Brandon, can we just help James this one time? Please? I'm begging you." "No," I said, rejecting her plea. Not expecting me to be so stubborn, Olivia got angry. "We're about to get married. A husband and wife are one. You have to listen to me, and if you don't listen to me and give the house to James, then you can forget about marrying me." Olivia finally said the words she'd been wanting to say all along. In my last life, after my mother died, I had been incredibly dependent on Olivia. I saw her as my salvation. My greatest fear back then was Olivia threatening to break up. My greatest fear was Olivia leaving me. That's why, even though I knew her relationship with James was too close and not right, I swallowed my pride and endured it. I always thought that if I was obedient enough, kind enough, and devoted enough, Olivia would see my heart. She would take pity on me, be good to me. But the Brandon of that life never saw that day. He died on a cold, lonely, and painful winter night. The Brandon of this life would not be so foolish. I stared at Olivia for a long moment, then said slowly, "Fine, then we won't get married." Olivia hadn't expected me to say that. She stared at me, completely at a loss. I looked at her coldly. "Since we're not getting married, you don't need to live here anymore. Please get your things and leave." Immediately, Olivia stared at me, dumbfounded, her expression like her brain had short-circuited. I couldn't blame her for being so shocked. The Brandon of her past life would never have spoken to her like this, let alone thrown her out. That Brandon had given his life for her. Now that the gloves were off, I didn't want to spend another minute under the same roof as this heartless woman. I threw all of Olivia's things out of the room, and they landed at her feet. The shocked disbelief on Olivia's face turned to panic. When she realized I wasn't joking and was actually kicking her out, she fled in a hurry. After laying things bare with Olivia, given her pride and ego, I thought that would be the end of it. But I underestimated Olivia's determination to help James. She was willing to do anything for the man she loved, including threatening and framing me to get her way. 3 days later, after buying my train ticket south, I was heading back to finalize the sale of my job when something happened. I ran into James in the courtyard. When he saw me, he charged at me with hatred in his eyes. I didn't know what he was planning, but I instinctively sidestepped. He fell hard to the ground with a loud thud, his head hitting the pavement. Blood quickly started to pool. Without thinking, I moved to help him up, but he grabbed my hand and bit down hard. The pain made me shove him away, and James fell to the ground again. He let out a blood-curdling scream, yelling, "Brandon's attacking me." At his shriek, Olivia came running. She grabbed my hand. "Brandon, why did you hit him?" James screamed his accusations at me. Co-workers passing by ran over to see what was happening. James kept insisting I had attacked him. No one else was around when it happened. The way everyone looked at me changed. James, in a high-pitched wail, demanded they send me to the police. I denied everything, of course. In the midst of the chaos, Olivia stopped James from calling the cops. She said she would handle it and needed to talk to me. At that point, I pretty much understood their plan to frame me. Sure enough, the first thing Olivia said to me was, "There's an injured person and evidence. You can't get out of this. The police will definitely arrest you." I just stared at her silently. She couldn't meet my gaze and looked down, continuing, "I can convince James not to press charges, and you won't get a criminal record for assault. But you need to show some good faith. Do one thing for me." Looking at Olivia, her head bowed but her words clear, my heart went cold. I knew they were two peas in a pod, despicable and shameless, but I never thought they'd be so depraved as to frame me like this. I had been too naive. I thought I could just step aside and let them be, but since they had a goal, why would they ever let me go? I cursed my carelessness and stupidity. Olivia was willing to be an accomplice for James. Things being what they were, I had no choice. I didn't want a criminal record. I didn't want the mental drain. I didn't want to get tangled up with these two terrible people. My voice was hoarse. "You can forget about the house. I die before I give it to James. My mom died for that house." Olivia was silent for a moment. "Fine, you can keep the house. But your job has to go to James. Don't worry, we'll still get married. I'll support you from now on." She probably thought I was desperate to marry her. Hearing her say that just made me sick. I couldn't stand being near her for another minute. Thankfully, I no longer wanted to marry her. I no longer wanted to live that life that was worse than death. Getting away from this toxic woman was my top priority. Weighing my options, I agreed. "Fine. The job is James's. Now you can go." When I agreed, Olivia wasn't as happy as I expected. She actually reached out to hug me. "Brandon, I know you've been wronged in this. Don't worry, after we get married, I'll treat you well. I promise you won't have to suffer anymore." She probably thought she was some kind of saint. I fought back the urge to vomit and dodged her embrace. I reminded her coldly again, "You can go now." Olivia didn't leave. She had the audacity to say she had nowhere to stay and moved into my spare room again. I knew she was no good. I knew she and James were both despicable scum. To prevent them from pulling another stunt, I had to play along. Anyway, I had already bought my train ticket. In 5 days I would be out of here, and I would never have to see these disgusting people again. Olivia was like a different person, no longer so high and mighty. She diligently prepared breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, trying to get on my good side. But now, I only felt disgust and revulsion when I looked at her. Olivia brought me candy and cookies to appease me, asking about the details of our wedding. Maybe her conscience was bothering her. She stopped spending all her time with James, fawning over him, and instead hovered around me. She didn't mind when I gave her the cold shoulder. She discussed the wedding reception with me, who to invite, and what suit I should wear. On the surface, she seemed to genuinely care about the wedding. But I felt nothing. I had suffered enough in my last life. I would never believe this vile woman could change. To Olivia's diligent efforts, I had only a few cold words. "You handle it." These were the exact words Olivia had said to me in our last life when I was meticulously planning our wedding. I was just returning them to her. Olivia's expression was complicated, but she quickly put on a pleasant face and spoke to me again. "Brandon, here's our marriage application. I've already signed it now, it's just waiting for you. Once you sign, we can go get our marriage certificate today. I looked at Olivia's eager face and smirked. Just leave it there. Our wedding is in 3 days. We can't delay any longer. It's best to get the certificate today. I didn't know why Olivia was so insistent on getting married. To avoid any trouble, I didn't want her to see my true intentions. I said faintly, you go do your thing. I'll sign it and go get the certificate myself. I had been cold to her for days, so my sudden compliance was a pleasant surprise for Olivia. Okay then, I'll go deliver the invitations. You sign it and we can go get the certificate together later. Olivia left happily with a few invitations, and I picked up the marriage application with a cold laugh. Just as I was about to tear it up and throw it away, James showed up again. Olivia hadn't gone to see James in days, and he couldn't get her to come no matter how he tried. Olivia's change in attitude had upset James, so he took advantage of her absence to come and provoke me. Brandon, even after all this, you're still clinging to Olivia. You have no shame, do you? I gave him a humorless smile. When it comes to shamelessness, I still have a lot to learn from you. At least Olivia and I are technically engaged. You, on the other hand, are just a nameless, title-less parasite clinging to her, trying to be the other man. My words hit the mark, and James was furious. He looked at me with venom in his eyes. You don't really think you've won, do you? Let me tell you, if you know what's good for you, you'll break off the engagement with Olivia right now. Otherwise, you'll regret it. And if I don't? James, I know you want to latch onto Olivia. She's an engineer now, earning $100 more a month than a regular worker, with a bright future ahead. You want to take my place? But why should I let you? I stared at James with a cold smile and deliberately picked up the marriage application, waving it at him. James's face changed when he saw the application. A look of resentment flashed in his eyes. Brandon, Olivia doesn't even like you. Why would she marry you? She's only enduring this humiliation for me. Is that so? If she likes you so much, why is she so determined to marry me? Why not you? That's because Olivia can't bear to see me suffer. I'll tell you what, the whole setup to frame you was her idea. She planned to give you my job all along. At first, she was going to use her father's illness as bait to get you to quit. But you suddenly changed. She had no choice but to use me to frame you. James wasn't scared at all. He didn't take me seriously and told me everything. Olivia only agreed to marry you for your house, your money, and your salary. If there was nothing in it for her, she wouldn't be doing this. She told me herself, she doesn't like you at all. She's just using you. After all, you're naive, obedient, and can't live without her. James thought I would be furious, that I would fly into a rage. But I just felt indifferent. I already knew what kind of person Olivia was from my last life. I didn't need him to remind me. I ended James's provocation with a glass of water to his face. He left, soaked and swearing angrily. With the noise gone, I picked up Olivia's marriage application and looked it over. I had planned to tear it up, but now I had a better idea. Since Olivia and James were so in love, I would do them a favor before I left. I picked up a pen and, under the other name, signed James. Then I took the marriage application and went straight to the registrar's office. A few minutes later, I had the marriage certificate. Looking at the names James and Olivia on it, I smiled. In this life, I wished Olivia and James a long and happy life together. May they never be parted. It was evening when Olivia returned. She had brought me some pastries. I was packing when she came in. Most of my things were already sold, so the room and the apartment looked a little empty. Olivia noticed something was off. She looked around and tried to make small talk. Brandon, why does it feel like a lot of things are missing from the house? I answered flatly, I threw out what I didn't need. Then why are you packing a suitcase? I don't have a job anymore, so I can't live in this dorm. It has to be cleared out for other workers. I moved my things to the house my mom left me. I was telling the truth, so Olivia didn't suspect anything. She eagerly offered me the pastries she'd bought. I glanced at them, a cold smile on my lips. These pastries weren't what I liked, they were all James's favorite flavors. So, Olivia, if you're going to pretend to be nice to me, at least do it right. I was annoyed and hadn't planned on saying anything, but I couldn't help myself. These are all savory. I don't like savory pastries. I like sweet ones. A flicker of embarrassment crossed Olivia's face. I remembered wrong. Brandon, it's my fault. I'll buy the ones you like next time. I didn't say anything and went back into my room. Seeing my cold attitude, a hurt expression flashed across Olivia's face. She brought up the marriage application. Brandon, did you sign the papers? Signed. I picked up the certificate, too. Olivia let out a sigh of relief. The certificate, let me see it. There's nothing to see. I already packed it away at the bottom of a box. It's a hassle to dig it out again. Olivia seemed to believe me and went happily to prepare dinner. Dinner was a feast with fish and meat. Just as Olivia and I picked up our bowls, there was a frantic knock on the door. It was James's voice. Olivia, I just threw up. I think I'm sick. I kept eating without a reaction. Olivia put down her chopsticks and looked at me. She didn't rush out like she used to, but watched me carefully. Brandon, if you're worried, go check on him. Why don't we go together? Not me. I'm not a doctor. I'd just be in the way. Olivia hesitated. The knocking grew more frantic, and James's voice was now laced with tears. In the end, Olivia got up and left. Brandon, I'll just be a minute. I continued eating unfazed. After dinner, I cleaned up, washed up, and went to bed. Olivia didn't come back that night. The next day, I calmly moved all my packed belongings to my new house. As I made several trips back and forth, I overheard people at the factory talking. They said James had been poisoned last night and had almost died. He was still in the hospital in critical condition. This hadn't happened in my last life, so I was a little curious. Why was he poisoned? Though curious, I didn't dwell on it. It had nothing to do with me. Took a full day to move everything. Olivia came back the next evening. I was sitting at the dining table eating dinner alone. I didn't even look up when she came in. She walked to the table and sat down. He was poisoned. It was serious. James was scared to be alone, so I stayed at the hospital. I cut her off impatiently. Can you not talk to me about other people's problems? I don't care. Olivia was taken aback. After a moment, she asked, Brandon, are you angry? No, there's nothing to be angry about. Olivia wanted to say more, but I had already stood up, cleared my dishes, and headed for the kitchen. She stood in the middle of the room, her eyes dark as she watched me. I gave her no response and went straight to my bedroom. I was leaving tomorrow. I calmly washed up, lay down, and prepared to rest. There was a knock on the door. I snapped, what is it? Brandon, open the door. I have something for you. I opened the door. Olivia was standing there, holding a small red box. She handed it to me, her face full of anticipation. Open it. I opened it emotionlessly. It was a gold ring. I hadn't seen this ring in my last life, but I recognized its shape. It was in the shape of a plum blossom, delicate and beautiful. In my last life, when a wealthy James came back to sell his house, he had worn it on his finger. Back then, James looked like a prince, dripping with jewels, while I was a withered mess. James had held up his hand to show me the ring. This is the wedding ring Olivia bought for me. I clearly remembered the suffocating anger and despair I felt then. So why was this ring in front of me now? I felt no joy, only disgust. I looked at Olivia and said, word by word, what is this? Olivia smiled and explained, it's the wedding ring I bought for you. Try it on and see if it fits. I didn't try it on. I just closed the box coldly. Seeing my cold attitude, Olivia's expression fell. I didn't want any more drama before I left, so I added faintly, since it's a wedding ring, let's wait for the wedding to wear it. You have to respect the ceremony. Hearing this, Olivia's face instantly broke into a smile. Okay then, I'll put it away, and I'll put it on you at the wedding tomorrow. The wedding? There would be no wedding for us. The wedding tomorrow would proceed as planned, but the groom wouldn't be me. It would be James. After all, James and Olivia were now legally husband and wife, and I knew James wouldn't let the wedding happen normally. While Olivia was busy helping him at the hospital, James had specifically called me. He told me he wouldn't let me and Olivia get married. Tomorrow's wedding wouldn't happen. He would do whatever it took to stop it. James thought his threat would bother me. I just said 3 words to him coldly. Do whatever. The night passed quickly. The next morning, James came looking for Olivia again. As usual, it was about him. Olivia was conflicted. I have a wedding today. James dropped to his knees at the door. Olivia, you're the one who told me to come here and rely on you. You promised to take care of me. Now I don't even know how long I have to live, and you're gonna have a wedding? How can you do this to me? James's wailing convinced Olivia to go. As she left with him, she looked back at me, standing coldly in the doorway. Brandon, I'll be right back. You wait. The wedding will happen as planned. I didn't say anything, just gave her a meaningful smile. Olivia thought I had agreed. As her and James's backs receded, I whispered, Olivia, goodbye forever. I placed the marriage certificate for Olivia and James on the table. Then I picked up a pen and wrote a letter for Olivia. I'm gone. Olivia, I wish you and James a long and happy life together. Putting down the pen and paper, I grabbed my luggage and headed straight for the train station. I got to the station an hour early and waited. The minutes ticked by. Finally, boarding began. I grabbed my luggage and joined the stream of people heading for the platform. I found my seat and let out a long breath. The Brandon of this life would no longer be someone else's pawn. I was going to find my own new life. The train whistle blew, and it slowly pulled out of the station. My gaze drifted out the window. Goodbye, the place where I lived for more than 20 years. As I was about to look away, I suddenly saw a familiar figure running frantically toward the train. Olivia? After arriving at the hospital, Olivia had been distracted. James was in the operating room, but Olivia had no desire to care. She just felt agitated. She remembered clearly that James had been recovering well when she left the hospital. The doctor had said it was nothing serious. Why had he suddenly gotten worse overnight? This shouldn't have happened. Her eyes were fixed on the operating room, as if lost in thought. A man came running down the corridor. It was Mr. Lee, an engineer Olivia had asked to help with the wedding preparations. Mr. Lee was panting. Olivia, Olivia, something terrible has happened. Olivia's heart sank. She pulled her hand back from James and hurried toward Mr. Lee. What happened? Is Brandon angry? No, it's not that Brandon's angry, it's Brandon, he's gone. Gone? Olivia thought she had misheard. Where could Brandon go? Where would he go? His mother was long dead. She was his only family now. Mr. Lee handed something to Olivia. Look at this. Weren't you marrying Brandon? How come the marriage certificate is with you and James? And Brandon left you a suicide note. Olivia snatched the certificate and the letter from Mr. Lee's hands. When she saw the names on the certificate, her eyes widened in fury. When she saw Brandon's message, Olivia bolted and ran. Behind her, James's mournful cries echoed, but Olivia didn't look back. She had only one thought. She had to stop Brandon. She had to stop Brandon no matter what. But by then, Brandon had already begun his new life. 15 years later, having fought my way to success in Silicon Valley, I returned to my hometown, a wealthy man. Accompanied by my assistant, I came back to Reborn, the city where I'd lived for over 20 years, to scout for investments. After 15 years, Reborn had changed dramatically. The poverty and backwardness were gone. The old factory had closed down, and my former colleagues and acquaintances had scattered. As my assistant and I walked down the street, I looked at the city lights and felt a wave of emotion. I remembered myself in my 30s in my past life, toiling day and night in the countryside. The hardship was written on my face. My hands were rough and cracked, and I didn't have a single decent set of clothes. But now, I lived in a spacious, bright villa in Silicon Valley, drove a nice car and ran my own company. I had married a woman who loved me, Lily, and we had a lively, adorable child. My in-laws treated me like their own son. My family life was happy and harmonious. All of this stemmed from the choice I made back then. Who could have imagined that 2 different choices would lead to such drastically different endings? Strolling through the streets of Reborn, I heard the call of a roasted chestnut vendor. I turned my head, and my assistant, already understanding, called out to the woman selling them. The middle-aged chestnut vendor was bundled in a thick cotton jacket, and one of her legs was lame. She greeted my assistant with a deferential smile. Her familiar Reborn accent felt warm. I struck up a conversation. "Ma'am, you've lived here for many years, haven't you?" "Yes, born and raised in Reborn. Been here almost 40 years now." The woman expertly weighed a bag of chestnuts, packaged them, and handed them over. When it was time to pay, the woman looked up at me. Our eyes met, and I saw shock and disbelief in hers. The bag of chestnuts she was handing me fell to the ground. Her voice rose, changing pitch. You're Brandon?" I looked at the middle-aged woman, her face weathered by hardship, looking run down and burdened by life. "You know me? You are?" I'm Olivia." "Olivia?" I stared at the woman in front of me, unable to connect this old, haggard, and disabled woman with the beautiful and poised Olivia I once knew. By my count, Olivia should be less than 40, but she looked like a woman of 60. Olivia's gaze was complicated as she looked at me, her lips moving. "Brandon, why didn't you give me a chance? Do you know I looked for you for a long time?" I didn't understand why Olivia would look for me. She loved James so much. I had given them my blessing. Shouldn't she be happy? But Olivia's appearance clearly told a different story. In my past life, while Olivia wasn't a world beater, she had become the chief engineer at a Fortune 500 company, successful and proud. What happened in this life that she didn't go to the big city, but stayed here selling roasted chestnuts? Though Olivia and I were acquaintances, we had nothing to catch up on. Looking at me, Olivia was too ashamed to make small talk. The difference in our stations was humiliating for her. She pushed her chestnut cart and limped away. I had no intention of prying into her life. Olivia was just a passerby to me. I had already let it go. But the next day at an investment meeting, I ran into the old factory manager. The manager looked at me with a sigh and brought up Olivia. Only then did I find out what Olivia had been through after I left. After discovering she was legally married to James, Olivia refused to accept it. She wanted to annul the marriage, but James wouldn't have it. To ruin my wedding with Olivia, he had poisoned himself. Unwilling to accept the failure of his plan, James had secretly increased the dose on the morning of our wedding. The result was that he spent days in the emergency room and was barely saved. But he was left completely incapacitated, a shell of a man. He had fully expected that after I left, Olivia would resign herself to fate, marry him, and take care of him. He never imagined Olivia would refuse. So James started making a huge scene, demanding Olivia take responsibility for him. Only then did Olivia see James's true colors. She refused to marry him, but James wouldn't let go. He spread rumors everywhere that Olivia had cheated on him, which was why I had left in a rage. He demanded she be responsible for him. James refused to grant a divorce, and Olivia refused to marry him. The once loving couple now loathed the sight of each other. James wouldn't back down, relentlessly harassing Olivia. Finally, under pressure from her father, Olivia gave in, planning to just make a life with James. Just as they were about to settle down, disaster struck. Olivia's father fell and broke his leg, just like in my previous life. James couldn't take care of him, so Olivia had to take leave from work to look after her father. With no income, they were living off savings, and life became increasingly difficult. James had only been interested in Olivia's status as an engineer for a better life. Now that Olivia had no salary due to taking too much leave, life was hard. And because she couldn't get to work on time, the factory management had complaints about her. Later, the factory's business declined, and they started laying people off. Olivia, the engineer who should have been the last to be cut, was laid off. James, who had gotten his job through the back door, was also let go. With no income, life was a struggle, and they had 2 disabled people at home. James, who had hoped to live well by relying on Olivia, was completely dumbfounded. He didn't want to be stuck with the now powerless Olivia, so he started demanding a divorce to remarry. Olivia hated James, blaming him for her downfall, so she dragged her feet, refusing to divorce him. Olivia couldn't abandon her paralyzed father, so she had to stay in the countryside to care for him, occasionally doing small jobs to make ends meet. She grew more and more haggard. Listening to the manager's story and thinking of the weather-beaten face I saw last night, it was a living reflection of my past life. I couldn't help but laugh. What goes around comes around. Sooner or later, everyone gets what they deserve.